Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. And today we're going to be talking all about that little guy right there. That's right. We're going to be talking again about BigBearAi, ticker symbol being BBAI. And Big Bear should have some big news this week, as after the market closes on Friday, we're going to have the earnings announcement for Q4 of 2024 for BigBearAI. And so today I'm going to be doing my technical and fundamental analysis of the Big Bear. And also I'm going to talk about what we could be seeing going into earnings this Friday with BigBearAI. But before I get started with the video, I want to remind everybody, as always, that this is not financial advice, and I always recommend that you do your own due diligence before making any financial decisions. So let's hop into it. And so first, with BigBearAi, when we look at the stock history, we could see recently that we had a pretty massive gain in the stock. So we got all the way up to a new 52-week high, all the way up to $10 plus. And then the stock did take a pretty hard retraction. And so the stock went way high up, took a little bit of a dip. But I want to remind investors that it wasn't anything necessarily negative with BigBearAi, but it was the overall market took a dip. So if you've been investing in February, you know that the overall market was very bloody. There was a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and a lot of investors were concerned with the news of tariffs, inflation, and more. So overall, BigBearAi sank only on those macroeconomic concerns. There was nothing with Big Bear specifically, no bad news to the Big Bear that did drop Big Bear. And so when we look at the shorter term trend on BigBearAi, we can see that we are in a bullish pattern. So the Big Bear has been gaining in value since around the $2 range. We started to see some pretty big gains in Big Bear. It would gain some value, take a little bit of a hard retraction, and go right back up. But what is positive is that the trend is going upwards. So BigBearAi, every time it would see a pop in volatility and go right back down, it would still maintain at a strong support and return right back to that strong resistance level. Then we did see some big news with the Big Bear. If you're not familiar with what the news is that sent the stock up here, that was that Big Bear got a big Department of Defense contract with the United States government. And so they're going to be providing their AI technology to the government for data and a whole bunch of other aspects when it comes to the Department of Defense. And so investors hopped into Big Bear like crazy. We saw some massive momentum in Big Bear. Again, we got all the way up to this 52-week high before we did see some retraction. But what is positive about this dip right here, again, just because of macroeconomic events, that is what caused this. Nothing necessarily bad with Big Bear, but even with this dip, we are still in this upwards pattern. So we are still in a positive bullish pattern for BigBearAi. Realistically, we could see this stock drop down to about $4.50 if the bears continue to get their way with Big Bear. But on Friday, we did see a pretty big jump in volatility for Big Bear. And so what I'm thinking, when we look at all the indicators here, we see that it had gotten overvalued on the MACD. And then we see with the RSI, it had also gotten overvalued. But because most stocks and plays got shot this last week, the valuations have returned more to normalcy with BigBearAi. And so we're trailing lower on the RSI. It's continuing on this lower the lower levels for the RSI, which when we look at that in the past, each time we were at a low level, Big Bear did shoot up. We know with technical analysis, a lot of the times it is like the golden rule. These charts will line up perfectly. And so Big Bear, I think, is lining up perfectly. We went from very overbought to very oversold. We're low on the RSI. And then again, we are still in this upwards pattern for the Big Bear. And then when we look at the overall long-term chart for BigBearAi, we are currently sitting at this major support level right here for Big Bear. And so Big Bear shot up to this level with the Department of Defense contract, and then it did get a little overvalued as more and more investors bought in to the fear of missing out with Big Bear. We did again fall back down, but now we are sitting at this major support level for the Big Bear. So with this line here, you could see that this is a major spot for BigBearAi. has had a hard time running up in the past. But again, we have a lot more intrinsic value in Big Bear now than ever before. And let's also remember that when it comes to investing, like I was saying, again, a lot of investors hopped into this play just off the fear of missing out. Seeing Big Bear go all the way up from $4 to $10, it got a lot of attention, and Big Bear started to be talked about a lot on Reddit and as a meme stock. And so we could see when we look at the overall volume for BigBearAi, the most recent volatility pop we had was the most volume we have ever seen for Big Bear. We have seen some of that volume drop off, so a lot of investors have now sold out of this play. But what I think is positive about this is that we are still sitting at a higher market cap than we had before all this this volume came into the stock. And then again, we do have earnings coming up this week. And so if you know the intrinsic value behind BigBearAi, this is a perfect time to hop in before this earnings report comes out. We know with earnings, when it comes to Big Bear, they haven't always historically had the best earnings. So when we pull up Big Bear here, we could see that Big Bear has missed earnings in the past, but the last 2 quarters of 2024, so quarter 2 and quarter 3, they did meet expectations, so they were in the green here. Hopefully, we could see this in quarter 4. I think if we do see a big earnings from Big Bear for quarter 4, we could really see the stock jump up even more. But what I'm really looking at Big Bear is the guidance that they put out for the future. And so if Big Bear has a good guidance and their projections for revenue, earnings per share, and all that is better for 2025, I do believe that this stock could gain a lot of momentum. We do know with the Department of Defense contract, again, that came this year. So the earnings and all that aren't going to be in 2024. Of course, it hasn't came in yet for 2025, and this is a long-term contract. But again, this is going to better their projections and their guidance for the future. We know with the market, it is always forward looking and trying to price in future earnings and events and stock news that we see. And so Big Bear gaining this big contract earlier this year, that's going to be huge, and that could definitely help their projections for the future. Again, the stock did take a dip this last week only because of the macroeconomic factors. When we look at the economic calendar coming up for this week, we do have a couple of big events coming up. So on Friday, we do have the jobs report. We have the unemployment rate, all of that. And so if we do get positive numbers there, if jobs reports beat expectations, the unemployment beats expectations, and then even on top of that, if BigBearAi tops expectations, this stock can go absolutely nuts. But I'm a super bull on the market at all times. So just so everybody who is watching this knows, I don't do a lot of trading back and forth. I'm not trying to catch big dips and then join back low. I hold for the long term. I always want to hold for a year or more so I could get the best tax rate, pay capital gains tax instead of the normal income rate when you sell under a year. So I'm hyper bullish on the Big Bear. I am holding for the long term. I am very excited for this upcoming week with BigBearAi. I'm hoping to see the market flip around. As we know, again, the markets have been pretty bloody, and overall, when we look at the fear and greed index, we see that there are way more investors feeling fearful than greedy at this moment. So the market has just been reacting with a lot of knee-jerk reactions to a lot of the news we've had, and it has been more on the bearish side. And so the bears have been a little bit louder than the bulls. But myself, I am bullish on the Big Bear. I'm hoping that some news in the market sparks some green this week. And even if it doesn't, I still think that Big Bear's guidance for the future can push this stock up can push this stock up higher. But I would love to hear what everyone else has to say about Big Bear in the comment section below. So please drop a comment, please leave a like, and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Been long time friends, me and Ben Frank. Every fucking day he needs a ride home from the bank, motherfucker.